In early July 2025, myself and three friends decided to take a fishing trip up to Rivers Inlet, north of Vancouver Island. Our plan is to take two boats on this trip using the Maggie Ann, a Ranger Tug 43, as a base camp for meals and sleeping. Our second boat is the Interpy, a 22-foot aluminum hulled pilot house with a 225 horsepower Yamaha and a 9.9 horse kicker, and we're going to do our fishing from this boat. Lorraine is at the dock wishing us bon voyage, and it's a calm evening as we exit the harbor around 7 p.m. on our way over to Sucia Island, which is going to be our first stop. When we got to Sucia, all the mooring balls were taken, but fortunately there was one spot available on the dock, and so we grabbed that and enjoyed this beautiful evening. We've timed our departure from Sucia Island so as to arrive at Dodd Narrows a little bit before Slackwater, and then on to Nanaimo, where Ken and I will clear Canada Customs. Well, after clearing customs, we move up a little bit to the fuel dock, and I get to try out this device I recently bought. It's designed to eliminate overflow spills when refueling. One other very useful feature of this device is that it amplifies the sound that the fuel makes as it's filling up the tank. So it makes it much easier for me to detect the increase in pitch as the fuel's near the top of the fuel tank riser. I've also been using this vent minder when refueling. So to help it stick better, I found that you're going to need to clean the salt off the hull. And then if you wet the suction cups, that helps a lot. About halfway between Nanaimo and Comox, we encounter a humpback whale. And then not too long afterwards, we see this pod of orcas going along. The Chrome Island Lighthouse that we see here on the south end of Denman Island is one of the several stations that report weather for the Strait of Georgia north of Nanaimo. We did have the gyro on during this segment of the trip, and you can see here it was reacting to a fair amount of rolling motion. Partway along Denman is a BC car ferry that runs between Buckley Bay on Vancouver Island and Denman Island. It is the first and only cable ferry in the BC Ferries fleet. At 6,500 feet, it has the distinction of being the world's longest cable ferry crossing. There are transit lights facing the oncoming marine traffic at each end of the ferry. It's illegal to cross the channel while the light's red, signifying that the ferry is in transit. So we waited until the ferry had docked, at which point the light turned green, indicating that it was safe to continue on. Just outside the Comox Marina, we spotted this crew doing what appears to be life raft testing. We don't have a reservation at Comox. It's first come, first served. But we found a spot near the end of D Dock and then met up with our other two companions for this trip, Norm and Q. To get to Port Hardy, Norm's going to trailer his boat. It's a roughly 300-kilometer road trip. Meanwhile, Q and I is going to take Maggie Ann up to Campbell River to refuel. Then we go through Seymour Narrows, close to slack tide, and then pass along Johnstone Strait, and finally Port Hardy. By truck, it's 3 hours. By boat, it's about 8.5. Leaving Comox requires transiting the Comox Bar. It's a shallow region only a few meters deep at low tide. But the safe channel is marked by buoys and onshore range lights, so no problem. It's gray and a little bumpy as Q and I leave Comox. We see low clouds filling the mountain valleys along the mainland. Well, after refueling at Campbell River, we head up another 10 miles to Seymour Narrows. We get there about an hour before slack tide. We've got an ebb current that's going to be pushing us through. The tide ribs on the ebb tend to be close to the shoreline on either side. We've gone through Seymour Narrows now and are on the north side, where we see several barges that are waiting for slack water before they continue their southbound journey. And also waiting for slack water at Seymour are these two tugs that are shepherding this long log boom. This unusual barge is the Okra Helix. I did some research on this ship and found out that it was designed to carry a petroleum coke and that it was currently on its way south to Anacortes. The Port of Anacortes berth schedule shows the Helix docking multiple times, each time transporting 7,500 metric tons of petroleum coke. I wasn't sure what petroleum coke was, but apparently it's a byproduct of oil refining and used as a feedstock in other industrial processes. Johnstone Strait is a popular route for cruise ships that are taking the inside passage to Alaska. Uh, the Riviera that we see here is a relatively smaller boat. I looked it up and it has roughly 1,000 passengers. The cruise ships do put out a pretty big wake, so it's important to keep that in mind as they go by. This kayaking group is near Robson Bight, which is a good place to watch for orcas, which occasionally like to rub their skin on the pebbly beach there. We did slow down as we passed them since we also throw off a big wake. Across from Port McNeill is the village of Alert Bay on Cormorant Island. This was the traditional summer village home for the Namgis First Nation. Currently has a population of roughly 500 people. Despite the name, there are no Cold War military installations here. We do hope to visit here on our next trip up this way and see the cultural center, the big house, and the totems. We had a slip reserved for us at the quarterdeck marina in Port Hardy. After refueling the Maggie Ann, we all went over to the Sporty Bar and Grill for dinner. Highly recommended, excellent burgers and very friendly staff. Well, today is the big day, leaving Port Hardy and crossing Cape Caution. This will be my seventh crossing, some of which have been very uncomfortable. None have been all that great, but today is different, really different. Calm, unbelievably calm. There are some logs in the water, but they're easy to spot these conditions. Plan is to anchor for the night in Big Frypan Bay, but we're here moderately early, and so we're going to continue on to Dawson's Landing. We're going to pick up some fuel for the Entropy, maybe gain some local knowledge for good fishing spots. Dawson's Landing is kind of cool. It's a nice selection of rental cabins, has gas and diesel, small store. Here we thought we'd get a little bit of diesel for the Maggie Ann. Due to its remote location, it is somewhat more expensive than the norm, $2.21 a liter. Here's a view of the Maggie Ann taken from the back deck of the Entropy as we head back to Big Frypan from Dawson's. We anchored Maggie Ann in the north corner of the bay. Then we took the Entropy out to do some fishing. We caught numerous rockfish, but only one salmon. But we did spot a whale. Returning from fishing, we found one other boat in the bay, but plenty of room for more. We rafted the Entropy against the Maggie Ann for the evening. The crew is settled in and enjoying a drink before dinner, which we had Bob's chili and cornbread. A relatively slow day yesterday for fishing. We think maybe it's better to move a bit further north, and we're going to go anchor in Pruth Bay and fish in Hakai Pass. One bonus of anchoring here is the free Wi-Fi that's provided by the Hakai Institute. But the range is limited. You can see all these boats that are clustered near the dock, and we did find that the outermost boat marked the maximum range of the Wi-Fi signal. Also, as you can tell, it was a very rainy day today. We opted to not anchor close to the Hakai Institute, but instead went over to Keith Cove, which is just a short distance away. And we have another excellent meal tonight, this time a lasagna baked by Q's wife, Ruth. Dinner, we had a serious discussion about the fact that Norm's boat used about a half a tank of gas today, despite only traveling a short distance. Later on, we found it was a defective O-ring in a fuel filter, but at the time we didn't know what the issue was, and so we decided that the best option was to return to Comox. The trip back was uneventful, for us at least. About an hour out from Port Hardy, we heard a mayday call from a boat that was sinking off Boxer Point. It wasn't Norm. We were about 7 miles away from Boxer, contacted the Coast Guard and told them we were responding. The Coast Guard said it was likely that help was going to arrive before we got there, but please continue towards the sinking boat. And then about 10 minutes later, the Coast Guard called us back, said the Pachena Bay rescue vessel, which you see here, was on site, and we could resume course for Port Hardy. More fuel in Port Hardy, and then headed south again down a nicely calm Johnstone Strait. Of course, there was the usual lines of log and kelp that we need to watch out for. This log is easy to see, but in poor visibility, we've learned that a line of seagulls close together is usually a good indicator of a log. I'm approaching Seymour Narrows now. We're past several barges that were slowly proceeding and obviously planning for an arrival at slack water at Seymour. Not sure what to say about this barge. It does look like quite a collection of used construction equipment. Approaching Seymour Narrows, we have the wind behind us, the flood current with us, and we've throttled back, but we're still making 15.6 miles per hour. We've gotten a bit closer now. Speed has picked up to 18.8 miles an hour, but no turbulence yet. Max flood was 2 hours ago at 12 knots and probably still pretty close to that speed. So we see our first tide rips up ahead, and our plan is going to be to take the path out into Menzies Bay on our right, and that will avoid the more severe turbulence near the middle. This plan does work well, although we do still see a fair amount of swirling water that moves the boat around quite a bit. Now we're near the southern shore of Menzies Bay, and we see this interesting cantilevered house on Race Point. This barge is going to have a hard slog going against the current heading north. It seems like stacking vehicles on top of the storage containers is a common practice. We see it frequently. Well, we've arrived in Comox, and just after tying up on the dock, we see this group of 7 river otters swimming nearby. This harbor seal was apparently used to getting handouts from local fishermen as he came right over to the dock as soon as I kneeled down and put my hand close to the water. And here's Carrie and the crew relaxing on the lawn at Hakai Bay at Norman Carey's house. We're watching all the other people enjoying the beach. Then the following day, Norm persuaded his friend Wilf to take us fishing out on his boat. And we had an excellent day, catching our limit of hatchery cohos within a couple hours. Here's Norm showing his multitasking skills, eating a snack and catching a fish at the same time. We also caught lots of wild cohos, which we released, of course, as well as this nice spring, also released.
Oh, ready? Okay, we got you.
Hey, cheese.
Cheese.
Definitely a good day. Norm showed us his garden hose nozzle method to clean the scales off of the fish, which worked very well. Yeah, one thing we have learned is how quickly the weather can change here. The wind has gone from relatively calm to, guessing 25 or 30 knots. It's a couple hours later, and now the wind's calmed down a bit. You can still see whitecaps out there. Norm's put out 3 salmon heads on the beach to see if that would tempt any eagles to come by. I missed getting a photo of the first eagle. Didn't expect them to arrive so soon, but I did get a video of this one. This plucky raven swooped in before another eagle could come by, and he made off with the third head. Well, Ken and I are back on the boat, enjoying this beautiful sunset. We're getting close to settling in for the evening. We do have an early start planned for tomorrow. But before retiring for the night, we have our usual evening game of cross cribbage. 5:45 a.m. Beautiful day, and we have our coffee and are leaving Comox Harbor, heading back to Birch Bay. As we approach the Denman Cable Ferry crossing, we see we have a green light this morning, so we're allowed to proceed ahead without stopping. Early morning sunshine is illuminating Denman Island and the Chrome Island Lighthouse behind us. The Winchester Control Station on Winchelsea Island coordinates all the military activity when the Whiskey Gulf torpedo testing range is active, which it is today. I read that somewhere around 300 to 400 torpedo tests are done at this facility each year. It's considered a good location, apparently, because it's isolated from the open ocean. The depths are good for testing, and the bottom is relatively flat. That allows for the torpedoes to be easily retrieved. Well, the seas are a little spicy. We see the Nanaimo ferry passing ahead of us. The waves are from our stern, but kind of a quartering, sort of a little bit of a beam action. So we are getting a bit of roll. The gyro's helping. This is the Entrance Island Light Station. It's one of 27 manned lighthouses in BC. A historic structure is built in 1876, designed to guide boats into Nanaimo Harbor. An hour past the lighthouse, we see the muddy freshwater outflow from the Fraser River, contrasting with the green color of the open ocean. This is GCT Deltaport, located near the town of Tawasin. It's Canada's flagship container terminal. It handles the largest trans-Pacific container vessels, has a fleet of high-speed super post-Panamax cranes. That means they're designed to load and unload cargo from container ships that are too wide to pass through the Panama Canal. Well, shortly after passing Tawasin, we used the CBP roll map on my cell phone to report our arrival into the U.S. And after a short wait, we were approved to enter. Very convenient. That's the end of the trip. Thanks for watching.